Hello and welcome to my Three Hopes Paladin guide. In this guide we're going to talk about the Paladin class, how to play it relatively effectively, and just going over things about the class in general. So to begin, it is a lance class on a horse, so it is weak to units who have Effective Vs Cavalry. It also is weak to axes but strong against swords. Depending on the lance you're using, you also might be able to counter enemy mounted units, so some considerations. Okay. So mount and dismount with left bumper plus B. You can see there you just kind of hop off your horse. You hop off your high horse, if you will. Hold X to deplete class gauge. So this is class gauge. You can see there it's the bottommost gauge on the HUD. It's depleting as I'm attacking. You can also see that it juggles things very well, and that's going to be very important for later in the video. But for now, let's just focus on the basics. So, okay. So you also fill your gauge from moving, like dashing, and it just fills over time. So let's drain it really quick. I have to quickly defeat the priests, but I don't really care to do that. I don't think we lose if they get there. Alright, so to begin dashing, you can dodge, and then you'll start dashing right away. So here's me sitting still. There's the fill rate. Now here's me dashing. It fills much faster. Okay, so let's go over the basic attacks. So your basic Y, just a quick horizontal slash. Just a combo opener, you know, nothing crazy, nothing of note. Your second Y, downward slash, nothing crazy as well. A little bit of damage increase. Your third Y is a fast stab. So there it is. Your fourth Y, this is where things start to get interesting. It actually bounces foes. So it won't always bounce enemies, like actual enemy units that you can target, but it will bounce spotters. So here's 4Y. There you go. It like lifts them up. I'm sorry, 5Y is the one that bounces. 4 is the launcher. So 5Y, Spear Slam does some good damage. Also bounces, so let's just do 5Y. So get the launch and then a bounce. This can continue a juggle on an actual enemy unit, so this is pretty useful to know. And then 6Y is a spear stab, and then 7Y is another spear stab. So let's just do the whole chain. So that's it. Okay, so those are your Y attacks. So X attack is your class action. You start spinning your spear, drains the gauge, does decent damage, can juggle foes, can juggle multiple foes. You can also move while doing this, which is hugely useful. Looks like Edelgard. Looks like Edelgard needs some help, so let's go help her out while we're going over the X attacks. So for X attacks, you have YX, which is your basic launcher. So let's demo that. Basic launcher. Okay, let's clear up some of these with an A attack really quick. So YX is your basic launcher for medium damage. YYX is a medium damage downward meteor where your unit slams the ground, so I'll show that. So downward slam, can bounce. So YX can juggle, YYX can bounce. We're getting hit by some of these enemies. Let's teach them some manners, some basic combos. This is on Maddening too, by the way, and these are level 100 whatever units, so if you're wondering how good is this class, the answer is very good. Throwing some dodges in there. This is more like advanced stuff where you're like dodging and using combat arts to like punish them. Get a good big class action here. So this is why class action's good. Get a bunch of armor breaks, get everything into a ball. Here, check this out. We'll just go to town a little bit. We'll thin their numbers a bit and then resume the tutorial shortly. This class, honestly, is one of the best classes in the game, by far. It's fucking crazy. It's really good. It rushes things down very well. I'm on an under-leveled unit, level 34 on Maddening, on like chapter 7 or 8 or something, and I'm like taking these out like it's nothing. This class is very good. I'm also surrounded by enemies. Look at this. Look at this. This is so insane. Like, I guess it's kind of nice to see the potential of the class, so you kind of know why learning about its fundamentals is useful. I don't even need to see them. I already know where they're at. I don't even need lock on. Here, let's just let's just do this. You're gonna be breaking tons of armor. Let me put it to you this way. And enemies are just gonna be getting fucked up. Here, I'll actually lock on. Except I was off there. Here we go. Get a nice little whirlwind on him. Look at all these armor breaks, man. This class is insane. Here, let me do this. They'll come right into it because they're stupid. The AI loves to just chase you, so you can kind of bait them into armor broken enemies. Alright, so we're on 4YX, but we'll cover that after I clear out these guys because they're just kind of everywhere. I'll just make quick work of them. Just interrupt the tutorial for a minute or so. There you go. So this is a juggle. When you get one of these going, you just push them in a corner and just fuck them up until they're dead. Or until you break their armor, whichever comes first. I could have kept going too, I still had tons of gauge left. I was waiting for the priest to approach me. Oh wait, is that it? Oh shit, I beat the mission. I didn't even mean to beat the mission. It's just this class is that good. You can just effortlessly beat things with it on Maddening with underleveled units. And we got S rank. Check that out. We got a horse slayer. All right, cool. Let's get back to the video. This is getting out of hand. All right, stop leveling up. I didn't even know I was even going for S rank and I got it. All right, great. Fantastic. All right, everyone's getting things. We got a horse slayer. We had a little bit of fun. Okay. Okay, so YYX is a dual slash. You probably saw me using it there. Here, let's savor this. You probably saw me using it when the enemies were kind of far away or when I had some distance. So I'll hop back. It's kind of hard to control this, so let's just go into this stupid camp. We'll be killing enemies too fast to see combos, but I can demo some stuff on an actual mission again. I think that 2 minutes of combat was pretty legit though. I think that showed the power, the raw power of the class on an underleveled unit in Maddening. This is a fresh save Maddening playthrough. So let's go to mock battle. We'll go over the here. Let's turn this off. There we go. Cool. All right, we'll finish going over the attacks. All right, so YX is a launcher, and then YYX, like a downward bounce. It can also like push enemies back and launch them in a way, like kind of launches them but away from you, so it bounces them. And then YYX, sorry, that's Y, that's double, so 3YX. Does like this dual slash. This is really good for damage and positioning, so like as something is approaching you. Oops. You can hit it. I was trying not to kill him with my regular attacks there, so it's kind of hard to show. I'll just like assume the fodder is like the thing we're fighting. So you can see there. Alright, let's try to get this going. So you can like kind of attack at an angle. Hit him with the tail end to dodge attacks. Get behind him. 3Y. And then immediately use your class action. I'm going to go over combos in a second. 4YX is a flurry of stabs. Pretty good at range, has decent distance. I tend to not use this. I tend to just stick to 1, 2, and 3YX combos. There's nothing wrong with 4YX. Like, it's fine. Like, you can use it. I think combat arts are just better, though. It has a lot of commitment. I tend to avoid it. And then 5YX, your final YYX combo. It's like this big slash. It's like a slam and a slash. Okay, let's do that again. So a slam, and then a big like sweeping slash moving you. That attack actually is good. The reason I don't like 4YX is because you're just sitting in place with high commitment. 5YX, you can move the whole time while you're attacking. And then it moves you even more. So you saw there I was able to dodge an enemy while hitting it a little bit. So if we try to do that a little bit more optimally. You can see there you're able to hit enemies and move past them. So 5YX is legit. I don't recommend using 4YX. Pretty much everything but 4YX is really good. All right, notable combos. So basic combo, Y, X, and then hold X. Damage, initial damage, secondary damage from the launcher, and then damage and mobility. Like this. And you can control the class action. So you can drive this thing around. You can move past enemies while hitting them. You can reroute, you can run circles around them and do little arcs like that. Extremely useful to be able to know how to do that. This attack does decent damage. It's really good if you can get a juggle going. So just Y, X, and then X with class gauge, which you'll have some because as you're just moving around, you build it up, and then if you dash and then run, you build it up even faster. So you can always just do this, and then come back in, move around an enemy. I actually recommend against locking on for this class, unless you're fighting like a dangerous boss. You should just be aware of enemies are, because it's easier to control your class action when you're not locked on, in my opinion. Because it gets kind of disorienting when enemies move around and it like changes your cursor. It's easier to position yourself when you're not locked on. And I know this enemy's like behind me, for example. It can take some getting used to. You can lock on, but it's just easier to aim this. Because then you're not like tethered to something. Okay, so more combos. Y, Y, X, X. So this is just a basic 2YX into class action. So for example, now you start attacking. So it's very low commitment, decent damage. It's basically just slightly more damage than YXX. And then you have 3YX into X. So I was using this a lot. The dual slash into that. Pretty good damage. In terms of commitment, it's not that bad. It does really pretty good range, pretty good damage. The second hit tends to... See, it seems to produce like the gauge more, like the armor break gauge. So like getting in these multi-hits can really seem to produce it. I haven't exactly studied what produces class gauge and like how often you can produce it. But from what I understand, this class, just because it hits so often, it tends to produce the armor break gauge frequently, especially when you spam this attack and hit enemies multiple times, and like with quick combos, like just like YX, YX, or YYX, stuff like that. Okay, and then for another combo, 4YX into X, if they're approaching you, it's at range, so like... So he was blocking, but you can kind of see the upside of like being able to hit them at range. It's kind of like a more poke combo. And then of course you have 5YX. And then X, just to help your recovery, just to keep a chain going, keep momentum up. That's high commitment. I tend to avoid using that. I tend to just stay in the first like 1, 2, and 3 YX combos. Okay, and then for a quick combo that just links the basic combos together, you have YX, YYX, X class action. So YX, YYX. Oops, that was that extra. Alright, there you go. So the reason why this is good is very simply, it's fast. So like YX, you can immediately start chaining again. So YX is a good opener because you can start using your light attack immediately. And then you can get into a class action pretty quickly. So like YX, YYX, class action. Pretty good burst damage, and then you're moving out of there really fucking fast off of an attack. Better than dodging in most situations. Especially if you can hit multiple things, like class action through multiple enemies, and start getting those stun gauges, those like armor gauges breaking, you know? Because then you start to get those insane combos like I showed earlier, and I got S rank without even trying to, on a low level unit, on Fresh Save Maddening, so the results speak for themselves. But yeah, YX combos into literally everything, even itself. Finally comboed into itself. It literally combos into itself endlessly, and then you can always break out by holding X to just like immediately get momentum, speed, some more damage, reposition. Really good to use your class action to reposition while damaging. It essentially lets you kite while damaging constantly, and it's a huge upside. Alright, so those are the notable combos. Alright, for class tactics, I'd say it's a hit and run tactic that can juggle foes very well. You have to get used to being in the fray, so you want to like attack at angles like this, like move around things, move in circular motions around things. Throw in dodges when you're under heavy pressure. You might have noticed when I was fighting all those enemies, I was like dodging. I would like dodge and then like start like a YX class action. Because you can get out of danger pretty fast with YX into class action. You can also get out of danger just by using class action. So like if there's like a ton of things approaching, you can just do one of these. Just like hit some of them, start dodging, close some distance, look for an opening. Class action out of there, combo with dodges. Cancel like the end of your attacks with dodges. Pretty useful to do that. And you can lock on as needed. Okay, so the class action is best used after a combo. It does increase the chance that you launch and juggle things because heavy attacks tend to have a higher tendency to do this and to produce like stun gauge. Also, it empowers the attack based on the class notes of the class. So let's just do... Alright, so we're hitting like 70s. Alright, it's kind of hard to tell what we're hitting there, but it does scale the damage and the effect of the class action. Okay. So foes hit by the class action long enough tend to start to get juggled. So if you just run up to some enemies and get them into a corner, or like literally run into them and hit them with the class action, sometimes you'll just get a juggle just off of that, so you don't even need to use like YX. If you can get a juggle, you can run enemies into the wall and corner and start rounding them up and killing them rapidly, getting armor breaks constantly, and get insane damage output in very short periods of time. This class is probably one of the best classes in the game. I need to test like Holy Knight and Dark Knight more, but this class has ridiculous damage output, it has ridiculous speed, it has really good control of everything on the battlefield. The only things you're weak to are melee units that have like horse counters, but they can easily be dealt with combat arts. So that being said, combat arts, when you're using them, you appear to not take damage from what I've observed, and you're not interruptible. So if an enemy's about to hit you and you just use a combat art, you literally just tank it and then deal damage to it instead. And you can get like juggles easily, which this class benefits from. So you want to use cheaper combat arts that you can spam. And you also want to be aware of where item restore crystals are. Most maps have them, especially campaign missions. So you should be able to be spamming combat arts the entire mission easily. Okay, class action allows you to damage and reposition. We definitely went over that. You can move with limited control. So yeah, you can move while using a class action. It has less control than normal movement, but it's still pretty precise. Like you can accurately reroute enemies, get some damage in, kind of do like hit and run tactics like this. Enemies will mindlessly chase you, often wasting time. If you're doing an all-out attack while doing a class action, you can get damage in for free while moving away from them, kiting them. They're not attacking you, but they're getting hit by your allies. This can be really useful for dangerous bosses. Class has great damage of rushdown. Yeah, pretty much everything, like all the things I go over in the other videos, like you always want to attack off angle, like off center. So like you don't want to attack like this. You usually don't want to do this. You don't want to attack into things, because then they're going to start hitting you back. You want to attack like more like this. I'm going to get another enemy to show you, because it'll be like a reference point. You want to attack more like this. You want to hit with like the tail end of your hitbox, because you're more dodgy. You're constantly repositioning out of the frame of their attack. And you can always get a dodge really quickly. Do one of those. It's easier to see their attacks when you're attacking off center because you're not in the way of them too. So you have better visuals of the enemy. So instead of the enemy being like this, you have no idea what the hell they're doing half the time. When you attack off to the side, you're hitting them, you're repositioning away from them. You can see when they're about to attack, giving you easier, like a better visual indicator of when they're about to attack to time perfect dodges for crits. Getting crits and using attack skills is a real thing. Let's see if I can get a perfect dodge into crit. That was a little bit early. Nah, I was a little bit late there. Yeah, a little bit late there as well. I tend to, like, if I get crits, I'll go for it, but when I'm dodging, I usually just dodge to reposition. Also note, when you move fast enough, you'll push enemies around. like when you're dashing, just kind of like a funny thing. It can be useful in some instances, but it's hard to control. Like, honestly, if you want to reposition enemies, this is the best way to do it. As you can see here, you can bring things with you. You can start to ball up enemies with juggle. So yeah, that's it for this class. For the passives, we'll go over those briefly. Alright, so you have Aegis. It works similar to how it works in every game, where it's dex times 0.25%. So if you have 10 dex, you have like, what, a 2.5% chance of not taking damage. If my math is correct, and I believe it is. So if you have like, what would it be? Like if you had 100 dex, it'd be like a 25% chance, but you're not going to get that high of dex. So it'll be like, I don't know, 5 to 10% or so, roughly speaking. It's okay. Lance prowess, if you're going to be running lances, you want this. Tempest Lance, just a combat art. Also note that this class, Cavalier and Pegasus Knight, turn into this class, and then it branches off into Falcon Knight, Dark Knight, and Holy Knight. So this is going to be a milestone class if you want any other mounted unit aside from Great Knight. In terms of like horses, obviously there's Wyvern Lord and Bow Knight, but for like a spear-based thing, this is kind of like the female flying version. Like these are like the magical versions. But this is a good class. All right, let's see what else we have. Sometimes there's like some variation. Just confirm what its passives are. So here you go. Here's a max HP plus 1,000. So in this case, Hubert could grab this. He wouldn't sit on Paladin, but he could just grab this for the HP. He gets a lot of HP from these secondary classes there. And then Ferdinand has a boon to being a Paladin, so he gets boost critical, and Apex Lance, so he gets some different abilities. Let's see. Yeah, Aegis. So Aegis, Lance Prowess, Tempest Lance is going to be your average case, and then there's going to be some exceptions, which is true for most classes. Alright, Bernadetta, same thing. She's a generic one as well. Dorothea has the HP plus 1,000. This is actually really good on a healer, just to like spike their health up, make them super durable. Let's just go over. Let's see. All right, everyone seems to have pretty similar things. Surprising to see that Balthus has that up HP plus 1,000, but pretty useful source of HP plus 1,000 for mages, apparently. All right, and then for boost critical, increases crit rate. Apex Lance increases crit hit damage, so it just increases the crit damage with the lance equipped. And that's it for Paladin. If you found this useful, definitely like and subscribe. I'm going to be covering all of the classes. So let's go over the ones I still have left. So I already did all of the intermediate except for Dimitri and Claude. And then for advanced, I have done Assassin, Swordmaster, just now Paladin. I still need to do Fortress Knight, Warrior, Wyvern Rider, Sniper, Grappler, Bishop, Warlock, Dark Mage. And there's probably others too. There might be a few others in there, but those are the main ones. So yeah, thanks for checking this out, and peace.